is Lori from Shoo Paper Art, and today's video features easy zig real brush watercoloring. And these two very pretty images, the hummingbird and the flower, are called Folk Hummingbird, and they are from Pink Fresh Studio and come in a set of stamps and dies. So we're going to start there with these two images, and it starts with some heat embossing. And I've already done the flower. I don't know if you can see that on video or not, but let's go ahead and get the hummingbird stamped and heat embossed. I'm using a VERSAMARK ink to do this, and I'm also using, let's see here, Lawn Fawn, oh, it's on the top. Lawn Fawn embossing powder white. Embossing is done. Let's move on to the watercoloring. Okay, I'm ready to start watercoloring. I might mention that this is Bristol Smooth by Strathmore. I've got a little bit of water here, and I'm using a number 4 silver black velvet brush, which I really like. I'm going to start with these little orange bulbs, and the pens I'm using are fluorescent orange and orange. I'm going to start out with the fluorescent orange. It's a little bit lighter color. And I'm just going to actually use the pen right to the paper and put it in the place where I want the darkest color to be. And then I'm going to wet my brush a little bit and add the water and just kind of pull that color out a little bit. And I'm going to do the same thing to the other little bulbs in the image. To come back in with the orange, and also I'm going to lay it in the place where it's going to be the darkest. To move to these two large leaves, and those are, let's see, they are light green and yellow green. And I'm going to start with the yellow green and basically just doing the exact same thing that I already did. Going to let that dry just a little bit, and I did the smaller leaves in, let's see, what two colors are these? Green shadow and pale green, and I'm going to start with the green shadow. going to go back to these larger leaves and put in some, what color was it? Oh, light green. Going back to the smaller ones and adding in the pale green. Okay, the flower is tea rose and light carmine. I'm going to let this dry a little bit, and then I'm going to come back in with some Staedtler pens and add some detail. But for now, that flower is pretty much finished, and I'm going to move on to the hummingbird. Okay, now the hummingbird is all of the colors just mentioned, plus I added in a turquoise green as well. Okay, I'm going to start here on the belly area with the tea rose pink. Tail and the wings start with green shadow and then move to that turquoise green. The hummingbird's body is starting out with green shadow, and then the light green. Let that hummingbird dry a little bit, and I'm going to go ahead and use the dies to cut these out, and then I'm going to do, as I mentioned, I'm going to do a little bit more putting in some little highlights and coloring in some places with Staedtler pens. So I will be right back. I'm going to put in an eye with this dark gray, Staedtler pen. I actually touched it in the wrong place, which means I'm going to have to go back in and clean that up. I'll have to use one of my mono sand erasers to get rid of that. Oh, yikes. I hate that. Oh well. Okay, so I'm just going to tap it a couple of times to get an eye. And then I'm also going to use a yellow to put just a little bit of color on the beak. All right, on the flowers, I'm going to use this pink to color in. I'm coloring on top of the embossing. I'm just going to put in some of the little berries. And then I'm going to use this light green to just accent the stems here and there. It's really light, not that noticeable. And I'm kind of doing that kind of to the side. It's actually on the paper and not on the embossing. It just highlights it just a little bit. I don't know how well that's showing up there on the video, but it does make a difference. Okay, the card base itself is a 4 1/4 by 4 7/8 Bristol, the same Bristol smooth cardstock that I used for the images. And let's see, down at the bottom, take a look at that, bring the finished one over here. I've got two, one in the Bristol and one in a light pink cardstock. And those are Lacy Borders dies from Fawn. Oops. And I've got a couple of washi tapes. It's really wide orange and the yellow gingham. And I cut the orange down a little bit. It was just a little bit too wide. And I'll show you some tricks for that here in just a second. On the background of the card, I've used Delightful Day stamps from Pink Fresh. It's this little collection of triangles right there. And then the open hearts are what I used on the tag here. That tag is cut from a Stampin' Up! Cutie Pie Thinlits dies, and there's a tag in here. This is one that makes the pie slice or the cake slice. I've had that for a while. All right, also on the finished one, I also put some triangles right in here because there was just kind of some really white open space there, and it just seemed like it needed it once I got it on the background. All right, that wide washi tape. I've cut a piece of washi tape just larger than my width of my card, and it's on some clear acetate or transparency, and you can actually cut right on the transparency, which is kind of what I like to do. You can run it through your paper cutter. You can use scissors, and it just holds it really nice and steady so you can get a straight cut. And then you can also store the leftover pieces right on the acetate itself, and that keeps it nice and neat for if you want to use it again. So that's kind of a nice trick for cutting the size of the washi tape. The button on here is glued on with hot glue. And I think that is all. You can tell I took the washi tape around at the back and just put a little bit of glue there to hold it. And then on the inside, the washi tape is also just folded over on the inside, which I don't know, I think is kind of fun. All right, so this is the Hummingbird Folk Pink Fresh Studio images. And I hope that that helped you a little bit if you haven't used the Zig brushes before. I am a novice to them myself, and that was just a way that worked out for me, is to use the two colors and then put the ink where I want the darkest places to be. And I found that pretty helpful in using the brushes. All right, oh, thank you for joining me. And remember, you can always find me at shoo-shoo paper art.com.